members of the committee. I'm going to try and cover the high points in the written testimony I submitted, and principally what I was looking at and trying to offer or was asked to offer was the lens of law enforcement in trying to deal with the traffic safety implications across this country. In my testimony, we recognize in the profession that clearly the major issues that were outlined by the chair regarding impaired driving, speeding, distraction, and the pedestrian conflicts occur across the country. I would also add the issue of occupant protection as well, because occupant protection speaks directly to the survivability should you get involved in a crash. But from the law enforcement perspective and the lens, we look at the world, frankly, in terms of a competing interests that are placed upon law enforcement, and a lot of those interests come from the local level. The local demand of our neighborhoods and our communities tell us what we need to prioritize on. And quite frankly, in some communities like the one in which I work, traffic and even parking is a significant issue. But that's not across the nation. And so we need to be flexible in the way we look at creating an authorization that accounts for the local law enforcement and the local expectations that the law enforcement leaders and the officers who do the work are confronted with on a daily basis. I've included in my testimony a number of general recommendations, especially regarding incentivizing the involvement of law enforcement. The current incentives for the national campaigns and those kinds of things that you find in the FAST Act and in previous editions of the authorization provide an opportunity for law enforcement to engage in campaigns. It's a capacity-driven thing so that it can be coordinated on a national level. But that doesn't happen on a day-to-day basis. And as you've heard testimony by law enforcement officials across this country, there are times where that capacity is drawn upon by other commitments and other challenges that law enforcement face, aside from the fact that we're in an issue in some parts of the country where it's very difficult to recruit people and to fill the ranks of law enforcement. So this competition takes place within these incentives. General overtime programs, we suggest, should be continued for a variety of reasons, especially if they drive for capacity at the local level. The other thing that would be interesting in terms of trying to do this is to raise the awareness of, through these incentivization programs, of traffic safety within the local political establishment. One of the things that I've suggested is to develop a national narrative. The current national narrative, in many cases, NHTSA does a good job, but it focuses on a lot of the specific things that we're looking at in a major campaign. The fact of the matter is, most of the crashes that are occurring are directly related to bad behavior on the part of the participants, whether it be a bicyclist, a pedestrian, or some motorist. And very few of them are related to mechanical issues. People make bad choices, and people get hurt, and in some cases they die. So what we were trying to do, at least in the city that we have, and in other parts, communities across the country, is to elevate that discussion to something more than just the numbers, something more than just a campaign, trying to get out there and engage in the activity, making a traffic stop, not necessarily making a citation, but looking for the teachable moment that are going to change behavior and get people to voluntarily comply with the laws. That's taking place across the country at varying levels for the same kind of conditions that we talked about at the local level. I would suggest that we continue to focus on these key areas, but I would also suggest that in the new authorization, we build in as much flexibility for local government to establish the priorities that they're facing in their local issues. What happens in Alexandria is not the same as going to be in LA. It's not going to be the same in Salina, Kansas. And so we need to be able to provide them the opportunity to address their traffic safety issues. And I would also argue that the traffic safety issues are not accidents, they're crashes. And it's not just deaths. People who survive crashes, and we see them every day, in many cases have lifelong, lasting issues that change their life forever. So, Madam Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity. I look forward to any questions the committee may have.